Today, we're going to take a look at what might be considered a miraculous comeback or a tragic game of throws, depending on your perspective. This match was played on my most recent stream, and we're in the legendary tier Soviet destroyer Khabarovsk. This was the second match I played in Khabarovsk at the request of somebody in chat. The first time I tried it, we made a terrible mistake when it comes to playing the Khabarovsk. This is not a traditional destroyer. It's certainly not a cap contester the way something like, for example, a Gearing might be. It's more of a mini agile cruiser. At least it is the way I choose to build it, which is for maximum main battery firing range using Rumble as the commander. And of course, building into main battery firing range and the ability to open water gunboat probably necessitates using the rudder shift mod in the third slot rather than concealment, which I am doing. And I suppose you could choose Eric Bai as an inspiration to help with the concealment a little bit, but I'm not doing that here. And with our concealment on Khabarovsk, we've got a 6.9 kilometer detectability by sea, meaning pretty much any destroyer we encounter is going to outspot us. And if we, say, push into a cap circle early on in the game and get spotted by an enemy destroyer, while that cap circle is surrounded by enemy ships, we're likely going to be sunk. I think that's what happened to me the first time I played Khabarovsk on this past stream, and I knew I was making a mistake at the time I did it, but I did it anyway, and I sunk. So this was an attempt at redemption, which you can tell me once you see the end of this battle, if you were not there for that stream. You can tell me in the comments section if you think that attempt at redemption was successful or not. In any case, the enemy Kleber is revealed by the radar Minotaur right at the start of the match, going for the Bravo cap. The fact that he's spotted by the radar persuades him to turn around and run away, which he does successfully, managing to keep his life, at least for now, even though he did lose most of his HP to the Minnow. We hit him once or twice, but Kleber is a very fast ship with a much better rudder shift time than Khabarovsk. It's even faster than Khabarovsk, in fact. So if it's kiting away from you and wiggling and jiggling as it goes, well, very difficult to hit, even for something with the excellent Soviet ballistics like the Khabarovsk has. And again, when it comes to the Khabarovsk versus other destroyers, I've covered this ship so many times I don't even know. But I'll say this again for the benefit of anybody who might have missed some of those earlier features of the Khabarovsk. The thing I see most often in this ship from other players when they're failing to play it correctly is they treat it like it's an American destroyer, like a Gearing. They drive it into a cap or they drive it close to an enemy destroyer. That's a bad idea. This thing is gigantic, it's got a huge turning circle relative to destroyers, and it's got a poor rudder shift. That means it's not very agile, especially at close range. It can be at longer ranges when you're dodging salvos from other cruisers or battleships or destroyers. But at close range in a knife fight, you're liable to get hit by torpedoes, and you're making yourself a target that is easy to hit for the other enemy destroyer. Your primary advantage in this ship is the long range on the guns and the Soviet ballistics, which you have to use if you want to dominate other enemy destroyers. At ranges of, say, 9 kilometers or more, the Khabarovsk can comfortably hit its targets, other destroyers. But those other destroyers are going to struggle to hit it because most of them don't have ballistics this good, and they have floatier shells, plus the Khabarovsk is quick and difficult to hit if it's kiting away, much like the Kleber. So you want to play to those strengths. You don't want to take it into a situation where you're in a close-range knife fight within 2 or 3 kilometers. Instead, you want to play it at more of a distance. So we come around the western side of the Thunderdome here. This was my goal at the start. I like to play the western side of this sleeping giant map whenever I can, because oftentimes the enemy team will focus on the Charlie flank along with the blue team, and they'll both approach the Charlie flank from the north and south in a show of force. Usually the battleships do this, bow tanking each other from the north and south of Charlie. And if you're, say, in another battleship and you manage to get into the Thunderdome from this side, oftentimes you can get really valuable crossfires on the other side of the map. Of course, we're not playing a battleship in this game. Nevertheless, I still want to take the Thunderdome cap, because also a lot of times when it's taken, it's difficult for the enemy team to get it back. Of course, that Alaska that surprised us a little earlier did manage to get into the Alpha Cap and take it with no contest. A little bit of a problem, considering we've got 3 enemy battleships coming around the corner here, and they look like they're about to take out the cruiser in front of me, which I think might be... No, that's a Stalingrad, actually. I thought it was the Radar Minotaur at first, but it's a Stalingrad. And at this point, it's sort of like, what do we do? One of our destroyers has gone down, the Chung Mu. He was taken out by the Lucian over there on the Charlie cap, and Charlie has been secured by the Reds. We've got 3 blue ships inside of it contesting it. But there is the Chung Mu over there, who, to be fair, is spotted by a cruiser, but I think he's going to, or rather the Lucian, but I think he's going to last a little bit longer. Actually, that was the Kleber. The Kleber that the Minotaur took down to almost no HP a little bit earlier goes down in the Charlie cap, but the Lucian is still left alive. And for the first time in this game, we were ahead of the enemy team, at least on kills, but they've evened it up. Both teams have now lost 1 destroyer and 1 battleship. And here, what we're trying to do is just farm the enemy battleships a little bit. We've got a fire burning on the main. Yamato and Montana are both behind this island, and we're hoping to get space to enter that Alpha Cap and maybe contest it. But of course, the Alaska is still inside of it, and we've got an enemy battleship coming around the opposite corner. We can see him on the mini-map there now, coming between Alpha and Bravo, and he's going to start shooting at our teammates soon. In fact, I'm surprised I haven't noticed him yet. It seems I just have now. It's the Colombo, which of course is a very powerful battleship, but he is on fairly low health. And he's sailing into the torpedo range. A lot of times the torpedoes don't come into play on the Khabarovsk. My concealment is, of course, 6.9 kilometers by sea, and my torpedo range is 6 kilometers, which means most of the time, in order to launch these things, I do have to be spotted. I am by the Colombo, which is a little bit threatening, considering he does have SAP secondaries and 16 main battery guns, but we're able to put the torpedoes in the water and get around the corner to break the line of sight, so we don't really take any damage from him. We aimed the torpedoes as if he were going to turn in, predicting that he would, and of course, we were correct. He did want to turn in to point his bow at the enemy ships, but then he's going to smoke up and potentially even try to turn out. The really good thing about these torpedoes, even if they do only have a 6-kilometer range, is that they're almost as stealthy as deep water torpedoes, which means the Colombo probably did not see them coming until they were right in front of his face, by which point it was too late. 2 torpedoes hit the Colombo, and he goes down for our first kill of the game. We're up to 77,000 damage done, and now that that threat has been neutralized on that part of the map, we can maybe push into the Alpha Cap. The Alaska is spotted somehow, and things are looking pretty bad on the other side of the map. We've got 1 cruiser over there versus 1 single enemy cruiser, and as far as I know, the enemy Lucian. That might spell the cruiser's demise. In fact, it does. And the Lucian is alarmingly inside of the Bravo cap, attempting to flip it. The enemy team holds 2 out of 3 of the caps, and they're about to get the 3rd. They're ahead of us by more than 300 points, and we've got a huge deficit to make up now. It's vital that we get into this capture circle immediately and at least contest it, if not outright take it. In order to do that, we're going to have to chase the Alaska out, which is maybe a bit of a difficult prospect considering we are a destroyer and he is a heavy cruiser. But we do make it into the cap, which is good. The enemy battleships are now kiting away from this flank, which should mean that my remaining teammates are able to push in. But at this point, my entire team's positioning is a little bit poor. We've got absolutely no map control. We're all clustered in one part of the map, and what we really need to do is spread out and push in now. If we don't push in these final 5 minutes, there's no possible way we can win, and it looks pretty hopeless at this moment. But things can still happen here. Alaska is outside of the alpha cap. He's on low HP. We're taking him down to almost nothing. There's a fire burning on him, not ours, but one that might hopefully be lethal. And at this point, we can take the alpha cap without worrying about being shot by anybody, thanks to the protection of the islands which make up the Thunderdome. We're caught by Alaska's sonar, but it doesn't so much matter if nothing can shoot us. Or actually, you know what? We're caught by Lucian's sonar. He's in the smoke screen there, and of course this smoke sonar combo is something that a lot of people are really worried about. There is a simple counter to it, of course. Don't push in to the smoke sonar destroyer when it's got its smoke screen up. Then you're playing right into its advantage. But of course it doesn't matter so much if it's a Lucian. Khabarovsk has the unique gimmick of having 50mm armor plating, which the Lucian's HE can't pen. And that Lucian decided he would shoot exclusively HE at us. So he did almost no damage, and he tried to hit us with his deep water torpedoes, which cannot hit enemy destroyers. So the Khabarovsk, unlike many other destroyers in this game, is sort of able to power through that kind of smoke sonar gimmick. We're able to take out the Lucian without much threat to ourselves. And that's good, because that leaves only the Napoli and the two kiting battleships from the Alpha flank left. Napoli's over there. We can apparently hit him over the island. We get a lucky fire. He instantly DCPs. What we want to try to do is take him out as soon as possible, but we also do want to take the Bravo cap. The enemy team still has almost 300 points more than we do, and there's only 3 minutes left to go in this game. So we're going to turn into the Bravo cap now. It is vital we at least contest it, if not take it. We don't want to give the enemy team an opportunity to increase their lead by much more, and if we take this capture circle or contest it, at the very least, we're taking in the same amount of points as the enemy team is, because each of us holds one cap, which is giving 3 points every couple of seconds or so. We launch some torpedoes into the gap there, hoping that maybe the Napoli will turn in. It would be probably inadvisable for him to do that. He's got almost no HP left, and pretty much the entirety of my team would be able to shoot him if he did choose to turn in, but you never know. Little bit less than 30 seconds away from taking this cap. There's Napoli there. Doesn't look like he's going to turn in, but he's got maybe 5,000 HP left, and he's broadside. The Khabarovsk AP is decent. It's no Kleber AP. I don't find that I Citadel cruisers too often with it, but it can get some good penetration damage, and that hit there against the Napoli for about 3k. That was enough to take him low enough that our teammate was able to finish him with maybe one shell there. So Napoli goes down, and that just leaves 2 almost full HP battleships left versus the rest of my team. We managed to secure the Bravo cap, and we've narrowed the points lead to about 200. But the only way we're going to win this game, especially now that the Stalingrad has gone down and the points lead on the red team has become insurmountable, the only way we're going to win is by sinking these two. And this is where it might turn into a bit of a game of throws. The enemy team has the win here. And weirdly enough, these two battleships demonstrated already that they understand sometimes there can be value in kiting away from the enemy team and preserving your life. But for some reason, even though they're far ahead on points right now, they choose instead to push straight in to 4 enemy ships, myself and 3 other battleships. The numbers just don't add up here. If you've got this kind of advantage, well, there goes 1. If you've got this kind of advantage and you're going to push into superior firepower, well, you're going to give up your advantage. It doesn't take too long for 2 battleships, even with mostly full health, to go down when they're being focused by 4 other ships. Somehow, we managed to turn this game around and win it. Thanks to the mistake by the two enemy battleship players there at the very end. If they had continued sailing off into the sunset, it would have been much harder to damage them. Eventually, we probably could have sunk them, but not in the minute or so that we had remaining. Just a crazy comeback all around, I think. I honestly can't believe it happened. I still don't quite know how it happened, even after watching it multiple times again. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.